Hello all my beautiful sisters from those other misters. Today I'm doing a review on the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. I'm actually refilming this review because the lip product that I wore in the original video completely failed me. Let the team down. So just reviewing or just refilming the review portion, I recreated the eye look today. So it's the same thing that I filmed days ago. So let's get into it. The palette retails for 83 Australian dollars here in Australia. You can pick it up at Mecca Maxima or online at mecca.com. The palette contains 12 eyeshadows and they are 1.3 grams each for a total of 15.6 grams of product. It works out to $5.32 per gram of product and $6.91 per eyeshadow. If you also take the brush into consideration as a product that is within the palette, because it kind of is, it works out to $6.38 per shadow and brush. But that does not include actual packaging as like a price factor, but we all know it is. So there you go. I am going to talk about the outer packaging with this particular product because it's kind of cool and it's different and I like it. So it is a slide out box, and when you open it up there are matches inside, so you can see where this palette is going. It's pretty obvious. On the back of the like slide out insert there are burnt roses. Again, you can see where it's going. It's a clever little palette, clever packaging. I really like it. That's enough about the outer box. Let's talk about the actual packaging. So it is a plastic palette. You've got an acrylic clear top with Urban Decay Naked Heat printed in like raised lettering on top. The lettering is sort of coloured in or painted over with like a sort of matte gold finish, and mine's already starting to wear off, which I don't know why. I don't treat my palettes like shit, but whatever, it's happening. Underneath the acrylic like top layer there are ridges, and it's kind of like you've got these sort of copper ridges with this sort of background of, I don't know, it's like deep reds and oranges and yellows, and it's very fire inspired. It's very like heat inspired. It's clever. I can see what they were doing. I like it. Inside the palette there is a mirror and a brush. Let's talk about the mirror first because my opinion is the same with all mirrors like this. It's a good quality mirror. There's nothing wrong with it. Personally, I don't use them because I can't get like a full face balance in there. I can't see everything, so the balance is always off. You can do like your eyes, that's fine, but I just prefer to use, you know, a full-size mirror. So for me, I don't, like, I'm not bothered by the mirror. I would happily not have it in there and have the palette be cheaper, essentially. The brush is it's a double-ended brush as per usual. You've got a flat shading end and a blending end. It's okay. It picks up product and it puts it down alright. I think the blending end is too stiff and like grabby. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to use it anyway. Again, it's one of those things, like if you love palettes that come with brushes, then that's great. If you're not really into it, then it's kind of like whatevs. Let's talk about the eyeshadows. So like I said, there's 12 shades in there. You've got 1 satin, 4 metallic-y shades, some are a little bit color shifty, and then 7 mattes. This is the first Urban Decay Naked palette in the Naked range to have more mattes than it does shimmery or metallic shades, which is awesome. It's great. I love it. I think that's fantastic. It's a great addition to the Naked range. Okay, I'm going to talk about like formula, pigmentation, how things blend, all that stuff. going to go through the whole eyeshadow palette, but I'm going to kind of group shades where it's appropriate. So the first one is Ounce. This is a satin shade with a little bit of added shimmer. I feel like the formula is fine, like it's smooth and all that jazz, but the pigmentation isn't there. It completely gets lost on my face. Even if I pack it on over like a really sticky base, it's kind of like, it's not really there. So not really into that shade. The next three mattes, Chaser, Sourced and Low Blow. I like the formula of these. I think they're quite smooth, a little bit powdery, which is actually like, I know people complain about powderiness, but I feel like it's helpful because it helps matte shades to blend easier. So I don't have an issue with it. I quite like the formula of these. I think they make nice transition shades. Next we've got Lumber, and I'm actually going to group this with the rest of the metallics in the palette. So Dirty Talk, Scorched and Ember. So some of these are slightly like color shifting shades like Lumber and Ember. And Ember also has a black base. So I feel like all of those shades have really nice formulation. They're very smooth. They go on quite pigmented. They're easy to blend. It's like, it's all good. I like the formula of them. I don't have an issue with any of them. And the last mattes, we've got He Devil, Cayenne, and Fuego, and Ashes. Now, He Devil, I think, is pretty much a perfect shade. It's literally right in the middle of the palette, but it also has really nice like pigmentation. The formula is nice and soft. It blends really easily. It can be used to deepen a shade or like deepen up a crease or a look, or it can even be used as a transition to like other even darker shades. So I really love that one. It's fantastic. The next three down this end, again, mattes. I do feel like they have great pigmentation. However, I don't feel like they go on as well as the other mattes in the palette. I feel like, for me, I've experienced a lot of patchiness with these shades when I'm applying them. So I'll put them on, they'll be a bit patchy, I'll blend out what I've got there, and then I'll build it up and, you know, rinse and repeat until I've got that nice, even coverage of color. For me, they're not perfect, but you can totally work with them. Like, there's nothing really wrong with them. I think the nature of the shades, because they are dark mattes, and they have sort of purpley and reddish tones to them, they're hard shades to create and get them perfect. I'm going to talk about like the colors in the palette and cohesiveness. So you've got Ounce, which is this shimmery light color. Honestly, I would say just use it as like a really subtle face highlight or even a brow bone highlight, because it's almost not there. It's basically like the invisible eyeshadow of the palette. The nude mattes, they're really nice. However, I don't feel like we need all three of them. Something could definitely have been taken out of there to make room for something else, essentially. I feel like these three darker mattes, so He Devil, Cayenne, Enfuego, and Ashes, I do feel like they all have a place, but I will say He Devil, Cayenne, and Enfuego, they kind of all look very, very similar on the eye. So I don't feel like they all needed to be in there. I think, you know, they could have been swapped out for some other shades that sort of related to heat or fire. Finally, the metallics. So we've got Lumber, Dirty Talk, Scorched, and Ember. So I like all of the shades individually when it comes to the metallics. I think they're a great formula as well. But personally, I don't think Dirty Talk and Scorched both needed to be in there. My issue with them is, and actually my issue with all of the metallics, which I'll get into, they're very, very similar. One has a red base, one has a bit more of a plummy base, and I mean, when they're on the eye, they look the same. When you've got them swatched next to each other, you can see the differences, but when they're surrounded by other red plummy shades that are in this palette, like it all just sort of blends into the same thing. It's like matte red with metallic red, 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 red. So I don't feel like they both needed to be in there, because I feel like one adds something to the palette, but both of them adds the same thing to the palette, basically. The last shade I want to talk about is a Lumber, and this is probably one that I have like the biggest issue with in the palette. Now, the color itself is fucking beautiful. It's like a dark apricot shade with a gold shift, and formula's gorgeous. Like, it's all good, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful color. However, when it's paired with the rest of the shades in this particular palette, it gets lost in translation. So you pop this on your eyelid, and because of that sort of color shifting thing that it's got going on, if you try and pair it with any of the other metallics, it gets lost. Like, you can't see it. It looks like the rest of the metallics when you put it next to each other. And it's very strange, because like today I'm wearing Lumber and Ember on my eye. I've got Lumber on the inside, Ember over the center of my lid, and you can see a very slight color difference, but it's not that color difference. There's just a lot is getting lost when these are actually going onto the face. And I think that really lets the palette down, because you're constantly seeing the same thing over and over and over. And I feel like that's where this palette, like, it could have been amazing. You could have made beautiful, like, heat or red inspired looks all the time, but it's the same look all the time. It's like the differences are so minimal that it's not like, it's just the same thing. You may as well have like 3 or 4 eyeshadows, because you're creating the same thing all the time. I feel like they could definitely have taken out 1 or 2 of these like neutral sort of, you know, nude shades down here. Definitely could have gotten rid of Ounce, because honestly I feel like that shade is pretty much useless. And then one of these sort of darker or mid-tone mattes could definitely have gone. Same with, you know, 1 or 2 of the metallics. They could have put in like yellows or oranges, or, you know, anything related to heat could have gone in here to change the palette up, because I feel like as it stands, everything that you're creating is the same. And if you're like me, where like you get sick of wearing the same look day in, day out for nearly a month, this palette is not going to stay in your rotation for very long. Alright, let's get on to swatches. I'll do finger and brush swatches so you can see that, and then demo of this look. Now, the look that I am currently wearing is the same as what I did when I filmed the demo. The only difference is I'm wearing slightly smaller lashes today. Enjoy. thoughts on the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. I feel like, see, it's hard because I like the palette, I like the colours individually. Using it as a whole, like every day, totally bored of it. Don't even want to look at it. Like today when I had to recreate the look that I did in the demo, I could have cried. I was like, when will I be able to put this palette down? I'm so tired of it. But I think that also comes down to, you know, personal preference. Do you like to wear the same look for extended periods, or do you get bored really easily? That's gonna be something you have to decide for yourself. Something I do think this palette does amazingly well is bring a new lease of life to the rest of the Urban Decay Naked collection. It goes so well with Naked 1, Naked 2, all of those cool shades. Oh my god, doing like a red look with those cool shades is fucking amazing. I do think it doesn't pair perfectly with Naked 3, but again, that's because it's lots of pinky tones, lots of red tones. They can sort of get lost in translation. Naked Smoky and this, oh my god. As a whole, like as a collective group, these palettes work really well, and this brings so much to the table. Alright guys, so that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this review. Maybe you found it helpful, maybe you didn't. I don't know. You can let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!